Well, we're back from the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and we did so many videos, I'm worried that you probably missed some of the best ones. So our talented team back here at our world headquarters has put together a highlight reel, a montage of the best moments from this year's World Economic Forum. I'm so proud of our team that was on the streets every day and our team back home here that was editing them. I think we made a real difference over there. And you know, if we hadn't been there, no one would have done the journalism that we did. That's what citizen journalism is all about, speaking truth to power and going right up to the world's billionaires and oligarchs and asking them questions that they should answer, but just hate to answer. Without further ado, here's our beautiful montage of our time skewering the big shots at the World Economic Forum. To see all our videos and to help crowdfund our costs, go to wefreports.com. Here's the vids. Can I ask you a little bit about State Street and ESG? Are you pulling back from it the same way BlackRock is?
No. And why don't we just set this up formally? But no, we're not pulling back from it.
Well, what about critics like Elon Musk who say it's a kind of reverse racism?
Elon's got his opinion.
There is a concern that the world that we live in increases risk for outbreaks of disease, and that there is a need to be prepared for future disease outbreaks so that they don't spread and become pandemics. So we have to have a conversation about what preparedness entails. Disease X is simply the name that WHO has given to the idea that there will be future outbreaks.
What are your plans going forward?
Not going to talk about it right now here.
Last time we were here, we asked you a question about your private jet, and you said you stopped flying private.
I don't have a private jet.
Are you going back to private jets after your work with the Biden administration?
Very much.
I do not
Thank
have
you.
a private jet.
I didn't say you had one. I said you flew on one.
Please make some space, huh?
Sorry,
Senator, do you have even a perfunctory statement?
can you please not across the senator, please?
Sure, I don't know who you think you are. I'm allowed to ask questions in Switzerland. Senator, do you have any thoughts on Trump's win last night?
Democratic process. Glad to see that it went off well and it was free and fair caucus, an important first step in our primary process.
It's not particularly pleasant at 9:30 in the morning to be ambushed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. 5. I don't even deploy that many people when I'm going to interview a president.
You've got that many people in the makeup room alone.
I think I'm happy that I live in the country that I'm from. I think everybody should have the right to express themselves without hurting other folks. You still have to be mindful we all live on the same planet.
Should they be censored if they do hurt other folks, their feelings?
No. You want to inspire.
If I hurt your feelings, should I be censored?
Depends if it depends if you had malicious. If your intent was to hurt me on purpose, and you need to up your love, and you shouldn't. Why do you want to exist in a world where you're purposely trying to hurt somebody's feelings?
We're friends already.
I've been a public figure in Canada, been a public figure in the UK. I know you got to answer tough questions, and you guys, you ask tough questions, and that's fair.
What about shareholders who say you're putting other goals ahead of your fiduciary duties? You're putting cultural Marxism or affirmative action. Those may be political values, but they're not designed to get a maximum rate of return.
If there's firms that are doing that, I don't know that. That's not how we do it. We have one focus, which is shareholder value, period.
I look forward to President Biden being reelected.
What do you think of the possible third-party candidacy of RFK Jr.? He seems to be drawing, in part, from President Biden's support.
I'm not sure that polling shows that. Look, there's a half dozen third-party candidates. There are in every cycle. Sometimes they have an impact, sometimes they don't.
But why should we trust the WHO when they got everything wrong with regards to COVID, from mask mandates to the effectiveness of the vaccines, which then essentially forced policy across the world, including lockdowns and vaccine mandates?
There have been disease outbreaks for thousands of years. Are you saying there's going to be no more disease outbreaks?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's not the question. The question is, why should we trust the WHO and why should we rely on people like you.
You asked me about a term that WHO employed. I'm just saying it's a term. It's simply a way of encapsulating a concept.
Show me a prickly question you've asked here at this place. You'd get booted out.
Look at interviews with Klaus Schwab over the years.
We have become too much pessimists. Look, humankind was driven, there was a paradigm, the narrative, to take care of the next generations, to take care of the neighbors. And we have lost this capability to a certain extent.
How do we get that back?
Look, the world is also full of opportunities.
My questioning of Klaus Schwab has been, over the years, some of the more difficult and, if you will, uncomfortable for Wes.
I don't believe that.
During COVID, when we were talking about the vaccines and whether the spread of whether it stopped the spread, whether it minimised the spread, anybody who questioned that narrative at first were kicked off most social media platforms at the time. Hold on, at the time, right?
That's right.
Okay, so that piece of information that we weren't allowed to discuss in neighbour space because people like in the WEF were saying that the government should control. How's that? That's why I'm saying too that's under a threat. Do you think that that's okay?
No, not at all. Not at all.
We stick with value. It's about value, not values.
Can I ask you about state governments that are pulling their funds out of ESG firms, like the state of Florida, for example? Are you worried that the State Street will be hit by divestment from companies that are rejecting ESG?
So we only focus on creating value for our shareholders. And if you look at our track record, that's all that we've ever done. And what we focus on is what do long-term investors need to be thinking about? What are the kinds of risks they need to be thinking about? And they need to make the decision. And that's what we've always done.
And what do you make? It's a bitter cold in Canada, down to minus 40s.
Yeah, back home in Alberta, it was minus 40.
And Gilboa is saying go to electric cars. That doesn't work.
In for a week. Well, you've got to have, watch out, you've got to have the full, you've got to have full capacity, right? And you've got to have, one of the things we're going to need to do in Canada, across Canada, and this is, for the benefit of jobs in the country, is build out the grid. You can't switch before you build it out.
And that's what's got Davos excited. Not the virus itself, but the opportunity for more authoritarianism.
I think we do need to look at the COVID experience, and we do need to understand the interventions that we use. We need to learn from the experience. A lot of it was suboptimal, but
they just made up the 6-foot separation rule. They made it up. They just admitted that.
Well, let me finish my comment. So unfortunately, we had the unfortunate experience of a pandemic. Governments responded as best they could with the limited information that they had. It is absolutely incumbent on us to understand what we went through, to learn the lessons, to draw conclusions about how best to prepare for the next outbreak, because there will be future outbreaks.
My fundamental view on WEF?
Yes.
A lot of what happens here is a waste of time. A lot of it is far too expensive, but there is real value in people coming together at the beginning of the year to see where they stand on controversial or political.
With no democratic oversight, no opposition party, and no independent journalists. It is a crypto government. It's a lobbyist festival. It's unregistered lobbyists. You get away with things.
Right. You have now transgressed. You have followed me for the last however many minutes. I've made it clear I didn't particularly want to be interviewed. I've given you some answers. Now will you let me proceed?
I do believe in freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And no one's account should be undone because they're doing their version of freedom of speech.
Can I ask you what your goals are here at Davos?
I'm part of a bipartisan delegation that has, I just met with 2 different foreign ministers about the hostages in Gaza, about the Ukraine war. I just met with President Zelensky.
The pandemic didn't shut down businesses. The pandemic didn't shut down flights. The pandemic didn't fire people. The government did.
Yeah, and the pandemic killed millions and millions of people, and without the interventions that slowed transmission, that flattened the curve, as it were.
Really? This has been
After 2
debunked
weeks?
by now.
Was it just 2 weeks to flatten the curve, or 2 years?
I think our goal is to accelerate vaccine development in the future and to ensure that we can deliver safe and effective vaccines even more rapidly than we did in 2020. And by shortening the period of time for vaccine development, you potentially shorten any period of disruption. You reduce the overall mortality, you reduce the economic impact. I think the world has to be prepared to respond to future infectious diseases in a way that minimizes the huge societal impact that they can have.
Do you trust yourself to determine what's true?
You know, I don't have those issues that you have. I know what's true based on the things I see and what's right and wrong. So if I see people being harmful to one another, hurting with intent to hurt, the truth is that's just wrong. As far as like this attack on the truth, that's been going on way before the internet. That's since printing news. That's since TV. That's since, town halls.
I think you've answered the question. You pretty much say you trust yourself.
I'm here in Davos, Switzerland with a team of 6 journalists from Rebel News. You may remember last year we managed to scrum the CEO of Pfizer and Greta Thunberg and other people who want to control your life. We might even bump into the chief of BlackRock, Larry Fink. If you think our journalism is interesting and important, please go to wefreports.com. All our videos will be there. And if you can, please chip in a few bucks to crowdfund our economy class airfare to get here.